YouTube, just thought I'd do another quick video on what I'm building in the shop today. Nice easy job, but something that people might run into. We need to do a new front door for a client's house. So we bought a nice, quite an affordable door from Bunnings. It was cheaper to buy that than actually construct one from scratch. So we just need to make a frame to go around it. And we've got our 200 by 50 Queller, and we've got our H3.2 pine clears grade ready to make our frame. Come take a look further. Rightio, so here's our plans of what we're going to work to, and you can see we have our rough openings between our studs, and then we also have some heights which they were a little bit trickier to work out, but basically this is our overall we're going to use. Fortunately we can keep the door the same width as what it comes out of the shop, 810, and then make our frames to go around. So our jambs and our head, sorry about the video, our jambs and our head are going to be 40mm thick by 147 wide to suit what they have on site, and then our door sill is going to be pretty much as big as we can get out of our bit of Queller. We're going to use stainless ball bearing hinges, which we have here ready to go. We have some stainless square drive screws to go through them, 38mm long. We might have to just cut them down a little bit to go through our frame. And then we have the black Aquamax seal, which is going to go, we're going to make a rebate and push that in and be a much longer lasting, tighter door seal to go around the doors. So we'll move to our next step. Right, so first things first, we need to straighten all our timber, and we also need to get a square edge. So we're going to use the buzzer to do that on our SEM Mini Max. Really good machine. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through our face passes first, and then our edge passes like you would. Make sure you've got your safety gear on, and you know how to use the machine, settle your guards, etc. Right, let's go. Right, YouTube, so here we have our dressed four sides pieces of our thicknesser. I forgot to do the Queller, so I had to go back and do that. But anyway, our next job is we need to cut our rebate out of this, which I've drawn on the end of the piece. So we've got the rib blade in the table saw, and what we're going to do is we're going to come down 15mm, which is standard. And then this way we're going to come in 46mm, which to get our 46mm we've got a 40mm thick door, and our seal is 6mm thick, so that's our total 46. So when we have the riding knife out on the saw blade so that we can do cuts without going all the way through. Please be extra careful if you do this, there's no guarding now. So, but when we cut it, we're going to cut and we're going to leave about 1mm on each face still. And then we'll swap out and we'll go to the spindle moulder and we'll put a rebate cutter in there, and then that way it'll be really nice and real nice cut, and there'll be barely any sanding to do. So right, so here we have it. We've taken our section of rebate out, and we've still left our pencil lines. Hopefully you can see that. While I was at it, I set up the saw a second time, which I'll do a quick video of running it through now. But I've just set the blade up to do an extra cut. It's a little bit wide here because I double tested it, but basically this little slot here is for our weather seal. So same weather seal I showed you earlier. It's just a press-in fitting, and so just with our little sample piece, that's what it's going to look like, pressed in. So we want it to be just slightly proud past the face, so when the door closes into it and it squishes up, it doesn't show gappy. And as long as it's deep enough this way to allow for it to go in, as well as when we trim that off in our next pass of the spindle. So in tightness, you know, it's a press-in fitting, so you do want it sort of tight, but not crazy because we've still got to get some paint on there. So let's go. Rightio, so Here we have the spindle moulder set up with our cutter head. It looks really bad. It's been raining in here, so I've got to get that sorted. Anyway, so we've set it up. Here's our jam. I haven't done a test trial yet, but that's what we're going to run. So yeah, let's go for it, eh? Rightio, so I've jumped a few steps, so I'll backtrack you to where we were last. So last we were tidying up this rebate with the spindle moulder. So we bulked all that out and now it's nice and smooth. I then quickly ran a weather groove down here, and to do so I just set my table saw blade up underneath, and this is my rip fence, and I just did 2 passes to get the width of the groove that I wanted. The grooves there is a waterproofing, or helps waterproof, so the idea is that the rain is driving in towards, and the rain will once again hit this groove, can't jump across it, and it'll drop down and run off, should I say. So I've done that, and then have gone through and belt sanded the face and in my rebate and tidied all that. Each corner I've taken my hand plane and just taken the sharp edge off, and I've done that to all my pieces. My sill came up quite well. The sill has now got an angle on it, which I cut the bulk of it out with the table saw. I spindle moulded the rest, and it actually was kind of a pain, and I blended it out with a hand plane in a belt sander. Usually is probably the hardest part, is just getting that angle, because it is quite a long cut. And then sanded that up, and I also now have a rebate which I put in the back. So if this was the flooring of the house, this is so that my door sill goes up to that, and it's a nice tight join, and it's easier to manipulate things if I had to. So the next thing you want to do is you need to set out your door. So you've got to be quite accurate with your measurements here. You need to get your door, you need to check whether the door sides have been eaved. So eaved, I mean this is looking down on a door, that they're beveled like so, and that's so that when the door opens and closes it doesn't bind up, or not as easily. So you check all that out, and if it needs to be eaved, you eaves it, or beveled. The next thing I do is I'll come and get the camera so I can show you up close. So if I hold it like so, this is the way that our jam's going to come onto our sill, because we've got an open indoor, so the door is going to swing like that and into here. So what we want to do is we want to transfer this line down onto the sill border, and then we just want to come in, see how my pencil line that's parallel with the front edge stops before this. Here's the pencil line, stops before there. That's because we're going to notch a little bit out of the bottom of our jam, so it sits over top of this, and when there's any shrinkage and whatnot, you won't see a big gaping hole. Be easier to explain once it's all been machined, but that's that step. I'll take care of those, and then I'll start looking at my jams and heights of that. Now here's our door sill. So we just set the saw blade up quite high and came down as far as we dare. We wanted to finish here, now remembering that it cuts further on the underside, so stop from the line. Do the same coming down the side this way using the rip fence, and then that broke out in my hands, but I'll get this hand saw and I'll finish tidying up that section. And you do the same at both ends. This here I went a little bit too far, because one end you have to do face up, and one end to cut it you've got to do face down. Oh, that was awkward. Yeah, so you do one end face down, so it's a bit of a guess. It doesn't matter, because like I said before, the jams are going to be sitting over this line, so you'll never ever see it. So back on our headpiece, and I've just notched out this with the table saw,
and all I did was set the height of the blade up to the rebate, and I just kept making multiple passes until I had cut out the bulk. Usually when there's a bit extra on one end, you use one end of your saw to help you set the depths. Also changed the blade from being a ripping blade to a finer cutting blade, so it was a bit nicer finish. You can do the same thing with a router. You could cut the sides with a nice sharp tenon saw by hand and then router out the middle, or chisel the edge, however you like. But basically now I just need to go through and finish it off so that there's dead flush with that. So I might just use the chisel. Sometimes I set up a router, and that's how you do that part. So after doing a couple of notches in our jamb, we've now got everything sort of the way we want. I've got my rebate for my flooring. I've done the same out of my jamb. Everything's looking pretty good. So now what I want to do is my door will sit 3 mils up from this bottom piece, and so now I can measure out the length of the jamb and cut it. So from there, my door length plus 3 mils at the bottom and 3 mils at the top. I'll just come around to there. Is where this is going to sit. And so now we know we just got to cut all of this piece off at that point there. Do the same on both sides, and we're ready to do start screwing it together for a test trial. So there we have our door frame all sitting there looking good. I've pre-drilled through my jambs and down through the top of the head. Trying to go slow so it's not painful to watch. And yeah, our sill. So right, so there we are. Finished product. All painted, prime ready for installation. Always try to prime it so there's no water problems on site. But you can see the Ecomax seal is in there working nice. All our joins are nice. Quilla sills all painted. Beautiful. Cheers for watching.